What exactly is folklore and mythology?
And what's the difference between them?
For which mythology and folklore are important because they're woven into everything we do. This may surprise you, but the term itself, folklore, was coined in 1846 by a guy named William Toms. Before this guy made our lives a little easier, it was called Popular Antiquities and the Manners and Customs of People. Yes, that is true. How did he come up with the name folklore? Well, the old Proto-German name for the people, the community, was Volca. And then in Old English, it becomes folk, which is our word today. We got the word lore, and the Proto-European word for lore was actually, it sounded like lace. Then it becomes a Proto-Germanic word, which is lizo. And in Old English, it's lar. And then in modern English, we have lore. So we got the folk, the people, and lore. And lore doesn't just mean story. It originally meant learning, knowledge, and instruction, which makes it folk knowledge. Essentially, the people's knowledge. Just because the word was invented in 1846 doesn't mean that the thing itself didn't exist before that, because the Brothers Grimm were already out there collecting the stories. Irish folk tales already existed. Basically, originally it used to be passed down in oral traditions, but then when printing presses were invented, people started collecting stories, and then it became more of a collection folklore. By collecting these stories across cultures, scholars started to see patterns, archetypes, motifs in the stories that were happening across cultures that weren't similar to each other on the surface. Once they noticed this pattern, people got so excited about folklore, and the Folklore Society was founded in 1878. This is where the term folklore went beyond just storytelling, it included a culture's or a community's charms, customs, rituals, songs. So it was far more than a story. All folklore is the expressive culture that a group transmits through time. And the funny thing is that William Toms actually came up with the term to try and define the past, but all it really did was become a vehicle to carry the past into the future. What is mythology? Well, mythology comes from the Greek word mythos or mythos, meaning speech, utterance, tale, narrative, story, plot. Originally, mythos did not mean a false story or a made-up story, it was just a telling. And the ology in mythology comes from the Greek word logos, which is a word, part of speech, an explanation. With mythology, we're not talking about the myth itself, we are talking about the stories of the myth. While folklore grows from the people, their customs, and it grows from the bottom up, mythology comes from the top down. It explains how a culture is formed, it explains how their universe is formed, the destruction of the universe, the cosmology, the gods, the things that they believe. It's very tied to religious and spiritual systems. Now, if mythology is the skeleton of a person, the folklore is the flesh. And between the two, folklore is the more flexible, because folklore shifts and changes as cultures evolve, whereas the mythology tends to stay the same. Folklore and mythology cross paths, they intersect all the time. Like take the Tuatha Dé Danann, for example. The Tuatha Dé Danann and their mythology of where they originate, who they are, where they come from, intersects with folklore in the way that the Morrigan, for example, shows up to people in crows, or they celebrate her sometimes in Samhain in modern day. So the folklore and the mythology are linked, but they're different, because one is a cosmic narrative and the other is how people see the world through that narrative, or how they're influenced by that narrative. To remember, for ancient people, mythology was truth, and it wasn't until Christianity came along that the word myth or mythology came to mean not real, fake, pretend, when in reality, the Bible is mythology. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then you've got a Bible duck. As far as witches go for us, myth is the meaning, folk is the survival of it. One tells us how to live, the other tells us why the world is that way. Both important, they're both necessary, and it's important to know the difference.